Well, it's physical, psychological, spiritual, and emotional enslavement. And so we have been traumatized, and trauma has an effect on the mind, the body, and the spirit. And so when they talk about post traumatic, it's like almost post traumatic stress disorder. People still have the remnants of being traumatized. And for us, for Africans in the Americas, North and South America, and maybe throughout the entire diaspora, we have been victimized to the degree that many of us want to deny it and abandon it, which is a defense mechanism of post-traumatic slavery, of stress disorder, in that we oftentimes are unable to manage it. And so when we're unable to manage it, we take the position of putting it somewhere else, denying that it ever happened, and wanting to move on. But you can't move on because the remnants of the victimization have been passed on from generation to generation. We have intergenerational trauma. And so some of the ways that we have learned to cope has been passed on from that time to this time, and will go into some other time, because we've never been without trauma. Part of the problem is that it's not really post for us. It's still present for us. And we're experiencing complex compound trauma, where we're being traumatized up on top of the trauma, up on top of the trauma.
Tell us about examples of that trauma that impacts our daily lives. What do we see?
Well, the language we use, some of us don't even like to be called African. I don't know how much trauma you can get when you're denying who you really are. And so some of us begin to look at each other as though we're the enemy rather than we're kith and kin. Many of us live in impoverished conditions, have inadequate nutrition, have schools that are not fit for humans to be involved in, and deal in situations that that defy our humanity, and have a system that has been created from the time we got off that boat to the present time, where our humanity is consistently being denied and determined by others who don't have any respect for us as human beings, who still consider us as property.
So let's look at it from the perspective of parenting. How does post-traumatic slave disorder or this disorder impact us? Examples in parents to child relationships.
Well, I think there's a lot of ways that it impacts, but one of the ways that it impacts is that it creates fear, and it creates fear that passed on to your children, so that many children are not socialized into being assertive and into being aggressive in the context of not negativity, but in the context of going out and getting what you want.
When you claim your Africanness, you're going to get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Black and I'm proud. When you claim your Africanness, you're going to get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim your Africanness. Black and I'm proud. I'm telling you. When you claim your Africanness, you're going to get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim your Africanness. Black and I'm proud. I'm telling you. When you claim your Africanness, you're going to get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim your Africanness. Black and I'm proud. I'm telling you. Become a part of it. Embrace it. 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 When you claim your Africanness, you're going to get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim your Africanness. Black and I'm proud. I'm telling you. When you claim your Africanness, you're going to get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim your Africanness. Black and I'm proud. I'm telling you.
Peace and power, family. Dr. Daw back in the building. This is not Conversations with Dr. Daw, but this is, I guess I'm going to say, Conversations with Dr. Daw. You know, I'm hoping that some of you can come in today as I go over this discussion. The topic today, Black History Month purity test. Who gets included? I mean, I kind of switched the title up a bit in my presentation to kind of explore some deeper themes. And again, as always, it's going to be from a psychosocial, historical, cognitive perspective, you know, all the things, you know. It's going to be from it's going to definitely have a psychological, psychosocial framing on it. And I appreciate you all joining. I know this is a day where many people, around this time, it's reserved for many to hook up with their boo. My boo is downstairs working, and I'm upstairs working. So, and definitely, speaking about the holiday thing, I don't necessarily participate in most holidays with Eurocentric origin. So, nonetheless, you do as you will, but I appreciate those who stop through nonetheless. Let me go ahead and ask you all to thumb up the video as you come in. I want to ask you first, let me make sure you all can hear me well. We be doing a lot of moving around here in these parts. Let me get some shout outs. Let me try to do some hospitality, like Mr. K, peace and blessings, as always, being here. JG11, I think I recall you being in the chat fighting, but nonetheless, always thanks for, come and fight. You know what I mean? Come and fighting. Nonetheless, can't remember what side you be fighting on. I don't really see it as a side, but nonetheless, do your thing. So again, Tim Jones, thanks for joining us. And of course, I'm going to slow it down today, have some discussion. Let me try to get this link up in the chat because it might be just one of those conversations where you stop through as as I go through this. I like a dialogical process, and it helps explore some of these themes, concepts, theories, ideas, traumas that we actually need to really deal with. I started with my dear mama, elder, scholar, physician, psychiatrist, neurologically informed psychiatrist, African Senate psychiatrist. Dr. Patricia Newton. Give respects. Let that serve as a libation. You know what I mean? Yeah. So who's this? Dr. Dennis, I call your cuz the Pan-African Terminator, and I call you the Pan-African. Hold up. Hey, Mr. K, hold up. What? I'm the peacemaker. Like that's what my dear brother Tahaka Bey calls me. He says I'm the Prince of Peace. He said, Doc, you're always trying to bring us together. You're always trying to get us to see the other side. You know what I mean? So, maybe there's something there, but I'm going to tell you, peacemaker or not, I'm telling you, it is hard work. It doesn't feel peaceful. It doesn't feel peaceful trying to bring some peace to our people. You know what I mean? So, okay. So let me look at that again. Let me put that on the screen. All right. Dr. Dennis, I call your cuz the Pan-African Terminator and call you the Pan-African Peacemaker. I like to hear more about where that idea comes from. More about why you say such a thing, especially calling me a peacemaker. People, I thought I was getting in some good trouble, but nonetheless, am I sounding good, family? Am I sounding like I'm coming through the actual mic? I don't want this mic in front of me. The worst thing I hate is that I'll come on here and I think I'm speaking into the mic because I'm hearing the monitor back, but then I get off and it sounds like all this airspace and it's not a direct connection. Just want to make sure it's not too high, not too low. Just make sure we're doing this thing right, y'all. If there's any problems, just be sure to let me know. All right. So let me get this link. I know I've been saying it a few times, I'm getting better. The link is copied. I'm going to put this in the chat. As Queen say, I'm going to put this in the chat. Please don't hold back. Let me see. Let's see what Mr. K says here. Yes, sir. You are the Pan-African Peacemaker because you always sense the pain and seek to heal those with the pain. Now, man. That's hard work, because I have a brother. There's a brother who recently asked me on a post on YouTube, not on a post, not a video or anything like that, or real nothing like that. He asked me how could I can't remember exactly how he framed it, but it was like, how do I guess, and I'm gonna put it in my own words, hold space for FBA in a sense? You know what I mean? The reality is, I don't think most people from FBA feel like I'm holding space for them, because psychosocial therapy, or therapy in general, if it's good therapy, at some point you're going to feel it. You know what I mean? And so it takes a lot out of the clinician or the interventionist to be able to go in there and really regulate his or her emotions and deal with it. So sometimes it does. I mean, it's about bringing peace, but it doesn't always feel peaceful. It says Dr. Winkler, wrench my brother up. Who my brother up? I'm a supporter. Oh, so JGLU3X. So you look, those and most days these the chat is moving so fast, right? And I can't tell what's happening up in there. It could be my trauma from the chat. So I see you, JG11. Where you coming from, man? Well, hold up. No, not that type of thing. But nonetheless, that's why I asked. But you say wrench you up, okay? Look, look. If I wrench you up, I'm talking about all those with the wrenches. Let's hold space for our FBA brothers and sisters, because the real goal is to help bring about change in those who are ready, and people aren't always ready. It's a hard process, as Franz Fanon speaks about. I mean, I think did I look it up? Did I quote it? But anyway, everybody says he said it. So we talked about cognitive dissonance. Cognitive dissonance. I didn't hear it first, but from Dr. Franz Fanon. But nonetheless, he used it. Let me just say that. So there's a lot of cognitive dissonance that takes place in our community, and I think that should be expected. Especially when you look at it through certain frames, and I want to be really clear. A African-centered framework for me is really a good approach to observe and engage with the phenomenon that we're dealing with called FBA. Now, I think they're a little tricky, because when they begin to talk, they sound like they maybe they have a little understanding, or they might confuse you to believe that they are, quote unquote, a part of the conscious circles, or I don't know what you want to call it. I don't want to get caught in that type of thing. But but then you start hearing them talk, or don't trigger them. I've had colleagues and friends and all types of people that still go by African names, but boy, FBA is in the blood. And you know what I mean? But really, FBA is in the nervous system. Hold on, let me say that again. FBA is in the nervous system. I'm trying to get you this wrench because you asked for it. I mean, you asked for it. So nonetheless, it's a little something going on here with my connection or something. But nonetheless, FBA is in the nervous system, family. Oh man. So DJ Big says Caribbean Heritage Month is June. It was created by a Caribbean in the same month of Black American Appreciation Month. Obviously, Caribbeans knew that they are different than BA and FBA. So BA stands for Black American and FBA stands for Foundational Black American. All right. So let's see the logic here before I move into my presentation. Caribbean Heritage Month is in June. It was created by a Caribbean in the same month of the Black American Appreciation Month. Obviously, Caribbeans knew they were different. That doesn't really make sense. I mean, I get what you're saying, but what is that saying? I think whenever you encounter someone with FBA or FBA talking points, you have to ask the question. Look, just what is the goal and the aim here? Because they put out a lot of bits of information, but they hardly ever like they want to they give you these little pieces of information, and you're like, what does that mean? And okay, so and next, like, what are you saying? Let's talk. Okay, Dr. Dennis, you seek to give them therapy like a peacemaker does. Yeah. And sometimes therapy feel like you smack some sense into them, right? Sometimes you gotta do it gentle, gotta massage it in. You know what I'm saying? I do a little bit of both, but I definitely hold a lot of let's say emotional responsibility inside of myself, so that I won't do too much, you know what I mean? Because my goal again is to help us, because FBA is just our people. You know what I mean? They are our people. Like we can't get confused. Like as one of my brothers said, he said they're the new Negroes. You know what I mean? I didn't say that, but my brother says like you have to look at it like we're still hurt. So even rather than calling people names from my standpoint, it's about it is hurt, man. Well, man, it's pain. It's painful. It's the trauma that I was getting to earlier that Dr. Joy DeGruy speaks about, that Dr. Patricia Newton spoke about when I first started this video, that Dr. Francis Cress Wells and Dr. Asa G. Hilliard, Dr. Amos Wilson, Dr. Akbar, Dr. Nobles, some people I'll name in the presentation earlier, myself. This is identified, the thing is, it kind of morphs its framing. So at one time it looked like this, but now it looks like this. In trauma, as all the people I spoke about who a little earlier, they understand that this is a perpetual process. So this is not a post process. In fact, Dr. Joy DeGruy calls it post-traumatic slave syndrome, but she said the reason why she chose the word syndrome is because she understands that it's an ongoing thing. The same thing with Dr. Not Patricia Newton, but she also says the same thing. She said it's not post anything, but also all of them say that. But dear Mama Marimba Anise says that the Mayafa is an ongoing thing. It's not. It didn't stop in the past. It's an ongoing thing. So those of us who understand the trauma that our people been through, we do have to do the work on ourselves so that we won't react to the nonsense. I just want to say this plain like that. I mean, and we also have to make sure that we don't go in and burn ourselves out, as a lot of people, some people were saying to me last week. They were sharing that they were concerned about me going in on that platform last week. It wasn't last week, it was probably a week or so before then. But, they're right. You have to take care of yourself. And you have to be very specific. And you also, look, I know this is not a popular word, but I empathize for my brothers and sisters because I see how easy it is to be lost in this society. Now, that doesn't mean that I think they won't try to hurt you. Now, that's the difference. Let's keep that a buck. Let me keep that a buck. I understand that hurt people will try to hurt you because in an attempt to try to remedy their pain, they will try to bring pain on you as a form of release. You know what I mean? And it doesn't work. It's just short-lived. But if you release pain on someone else, for many people, it gives them some temporary release. In fact, there's also a very victim mindset. It's a very victim mindset. So my theory, conceptual framework, and my philosophy in NJIA, which is a key Swahili word that means the way, but I use it plurally, meaning that I believe our approach has to be pluralistic. We'll talk a little bit about NJIA today. As you can see how I frame things and how I see it. Because look, our elders, our scholars, our mamas, babas, our community people, our book clubs, study groups, all these different things. I'm sorry, should I say things? Sometimes you just throw things in there because there's a word lacking there, but these different iterations of our approach to understanding the problem. Now, our approach is to understanding the problem, these different ways that we've try to understand the problem in these different formations, study groups, throughout academic studies, throughout churches and mosques and temples and whatever else. I think that what we need to do, nonetheless, is be very strategic. And we have to have a model. We have to have a framework, because without a framework, you will go in there and you will get swept up by the emotions and the chaos and that type of immature emotional responses that they throw at you. I was talking to my class the other day, and I think, I was talking to my students, and I was telling them that we have to build up our resiliency or our capacity as they did in the civil rights era. And I'm not saying you have to be nonviolent. I'm just saying that we have to build up our capacity. I'm not suggesting that you be violent, but I know that there's a time and a place for everything. And this society is very violent. Let me say that. What's the problem? We are different. Okay. All right. I'm a supporter. You have helped me. All right. Salute. All right. Let's see what else we got here. All right, we got. I'm trying to do this. Let me see if there's anything. Let me see, Dr. Dennis. Read the comment I made about Edgar Toppin. Where's that at? Now, Mr. K be coming in here with all this extra scholastic stuff. The problem is you are clueless. Oh, is that me? Oh, that's DJ Biggs. All right, let me leave y'all alone. Y'all have fun. And let's see what we got here with Edward Toppin. All right, we'll get to it. Maybe I'll get to it. Let's see what else is here. All right, I'm not going to jump in that fight. I'm not going. What happened? The problem being different. I don't know that. See, listen. This is what I talk about. What is the problem with being different? Embrace it. What does that mean? Like, who said that? Who said there's a problem with the diverse ways we show up? Do you feel like there's a problem? Do you have to guard and gatekeep and fight your difference? To me, this we're gonna talk about. Let me just get into the presentation, y'all. And I'm going to throw the link in there one more time, and I'm going to try to get you that wrench, and I'm going to try to do all the things. All right, so let me throw the link in there for those. Oh, I think mods, I think y'all can. Do y'all have the ability to, what is it called? Pin the link? If you can, do that for me. Or, let's just do that. All right, let's do this. Let's get started. All right, now we're gonna do it like this, family. I don't want to do it like that. I want to do it like this. All right. I don't think that's the right slide though. Let's go back to the first slide. All right. All right. We're gonna get it started, y'all. So the title that come up, or it's evolved to, is Black History Month, Race First, and the Myth of Erasure. Okay, let's say that again. Black History Month, Race First, and the Myth of Erasure. This is a Ngea psychohistorical analysis. So again, my framework, which you all, as you talk, as you send me things, as you share with me, it's helping to evolve and refine this framework, this theory, this way of conceptualizing, and more. So again, Ngea, the sacred journey of both and. And I think that I really want to be real clear that from an African-centered perspective, both and is really important. It's really essential. In fact, from a trauma-informed perspective, both and is essential. And I'll be real honest out the gate. A lot of people that suffer with that logical trauma, which leads them to FBA, psychosocial neurological trauma, which leads them to FBA, has them struggling with seeing nuance. And I'm saying not just people from FBA, I'm saying even some of us. But what I am saying is, when you have a certain type of trauma, it is difficult for you to see nuance. It's like this or that. It's all or nothing. It's black or white. It's a struggle to see the nuance. And even when they say many times that they are looking at this from a more nuanced perspective, man, they're not being really honest. It's more of about saving face. It's more about, it's like when people struggle with nuance and they feel a threat to themselves, they will do whatever they have to do to survive, even if that's called lying. And sometimes that lying is by omission. So, and then there's also a lot of gaslighting that goes on. They're like, well, we never said that. We never said everybody. We never said all this. Like, come on now, y'all. I'm not playing those games with y'all. It's clearing your language. It's the language is disjointed, and you don't even know when you speak half the time. You're just telling us all the things that you say you're not saying, but they can't hide within you. I'm saying for those of us who can see and examine what you say, how you say, and what you don't say, and even your physiological responses tell us a lot. And many times you don't want to be honest. There's hurt and pain around our diasporic and continental family. And I'm not saying that nothing happened. Again, y'all, like what they call me, the peacemaker or something. But see, to y'all think I'm being peaceful. To my FBA adjacent folk, they feel like I'm stepping on their toes, smack them in the face, disrespecting them. They might say something else reactionary. So let's have this discussion, y'all. So the purpose of this conversation, this presentation is not a debate. It is a clarification that aims to address growing claims that African-American history is being erased during Black History Month. Examine those claims through a psychosocial, cognitive, and trauma-informed lens. And I also want to recenter Carter G. Woodson's actual vision in a way. So again, I'm going to do all this from a psychosocial, historical, whatever perspective. I want to clarify what race first means within NGIA from an NGIA perspective. And not just NGIA, but it's a part of my framework NGIA, which is a collective framework, which I say that I have not done anything alone because my elders, ancestors, and community members have given to me, have fed into me. I'm taking the duty to put it together. Reduce internal conflict by correcting historical and cognitive distortions. So again, there's a lot of trouble going on. Now, let me say this, y'all. My dear brother, Baba Imhotep Fatu, brilliant brother. He'll be on very soon. He'll be on Conversations with Dr. Daw. We're going to talk about this leadership thing. And that's another trauma in our community. Oh, we don't need no leaders. I get it. I understand. And I understand the hurt and pain. See, we all have some things we got to work on. FBA, maybe, look, I tell you what would be attractive for people with FBA because they say they don't have a leader. So lots of people would say, and I'm not saying this centralized leader, there's one figure that's a leader. I'm saying that to say we don't need leadership is like, whoa, what are you doing? Are you a parent? You know, are you like come on now, let's get over this. Like we have to heal. When leader feels like somebody has hit you in your gut, understand there's something to really reflect on and process there. And even if it's from a more social, historical perspective, like because our leaders have been in many instances taken down, but that still doesn't mean that we don't need leadership. Even if and when people are taken down, that doesn't mean we haven't made any progress or that resistance wasn't necessary. Let's be clear. So we have to be clear about that. I agree with this conversation. I mean, with this statement, leadership and soldiership is needed. They're needed. I appreciate that. So again, let me tell you what my dear brother, Bobby Imhotep Fatu, posted the other day on Facebook. He says, we must develop the awareness and cultivate the competence to identify the symptomology of the traumatized mind. Because the traumatized mind does not remain still or silent. Remember, it can be messy. The traumatized mind tends to reproduce its wounds. He's writing a manuscript, he told me. And this is an excerpt out of it. He says, the traumatized mind tends to reproduce the wounds, transfer its pain, and unconsciously enlist others into its dysfunction. Wherever it operates unchecked, the traumatized mind becomes a vessel of injury. Woo! Let me say that again. The traumatized mind becomes a vessel of injury, projecting hurt into relationships, families, organizations, and movements. Let's look at this. So we got to heal. And the reason why a FBA will be so attractive to many is that they say there's no organization. Although, you know, it's a loose, whatever it is. It ain't no lineage. A brother kept coming in the comments today saying, what do you say, Dr. Daw? Are we a lineage? Please just answer the question. I'm like, brother, check my videos out. I've seen, I don't believe, I'm trying to be nice with you, but I'm not going with, what is this lineage thing you're talking about? I know you'll clip that. It's not a lineage in the sense that it's not a lineage in the sense that, everybody has the same lineage and we all have the same lineage. Let's go back to what the dear brother Jay. No, I'm sorry. Who said it earlier? Somebody said it earlier. Why can't we just be different? But nonetheless, it's no universal lineage for all African Americans and so on and so forth. Like lineage is specifically to your origin. But again, as I always say, I'll take your operational definition and what you're saying, this collective lineage of those who come through chattel slavery in the United States of America. Okay, all right. If that's what you call lineage, no, I don't accept it. I don't even think it's necessary. I think African American does that clearly. And I'll show you today perhaps how lots of the things you say do not make sense. And you flip-flop whenever you will. I'm sorry, let me back down. This is direct confrontation in healing. So again, my dear brother says, Bob Imhotep says, the traumatized mind becomes a vessel of injury, projecting unresolved hurt into relationships, families, organizations, and movements. Left unexamined and addressed, the traumatized mind becomes a conduit of harm, not just a container of it. The traumatized mind traumatizes minds. Let's think about that. See, if you notice what my dear brother Baba Imhotep is saying is it's in accord with the Injia framework that I'm proposing here. Because what he's clearly doing, I want to be very clear. He says the traumatized mind becomes a vessel of the injury. Not only is it a vessel, it projects that which is inside onto others. The hurt that you have inside, you project it on others. And in fact, that is done as a means of defending the fragility, the fragileness, if there's a word, inside of them, inside of us. Because I'm fragile, I have to project outward. And that is what FBA does. That is what we do in our gender wars. That is what we do in our I don't need nobody leading me and all that type of thing. And oh, he did like I'm not saying there's no injustice ever. But what I am saying, and I agree, traumatized minds become a vessel of injury, and everything becomes so fragile, so delicate, so soft that everything becomes a transgression. And believe, and I'm saying everything, almost everything can become a transgression. And they look for the difference. Can we just be different? Why can't we just be different? They say. Well, nobody's not saying you can't be different. You are different. Like where did that come from? You are different, obviously, because you're saying that. Like, yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm not begging anybody to be different. I am who I am. And that's the other thing. It's a very powerless and victimized type of way of being. So again, in GIA framework, you have the way of understanding, and that's what we're going to talk about a lot today, way of understanding, but your way of being is even fragile. And you feel like you have to defend yourself against everything. Now, we should all look at and protect ourselves. But the reality is everything is not coming for you, and everything that's meant and said is not intended to hurt. Some things hurt because you have to do some work. So I'm going to continue. He says again, left unexamined and addressed, the traumatized mind becomes a conduit of harm. It will become a conduit of harm even when it doesn't know that it's doing it. Because traumatized people are professional survivors. And it's a very unconscious way of living. And many times other people become targets. Or, as one of my mentors, Jegnas, say, they become what does he say? They become an example, not an example. They become I can't think of the term right now. It'll come back later. They become an opportunity, he says. So people who struggle with their hurt and pain, lots of times unconsciously or consciously find opportunities to blame their pain and their trauma on. And they go from one situation to the next situation doing the same thing. You will find, I would argue that you will find that people in a lot of these groups have issues in all of their relationships. Now, that's a general sweeping statement. But, and I say some of them don't, but I'm talking about the real deal ones that's doing all these things. You can't have that much pain and hurt and malice towards other people and a lack of empathy to see what's really going on, because it takes empathy to see the fuller picture. And again, empathy doesn't mean you can't protect yourself. I always tell people you can do two things. You can empathize with somebody, but also protect yourself. You can always do two things. When empathy triggers you, know there's some work to do, because all empathy means like I can see what life might be like for him or her. That doesn't mean I have to get out my car and help them. I can see how hard that might be for him or her. I can see how difficult it is for my dear brothers and sisters over there in FBA land, because the pain has to, as my dear brother says here, project its unresolved hurt into relationships, families, organizations, and movements. And I'm going to extend it with his permission. Without his permission, to groups and societies, social media platforms, all the things. I'm certain he'll be okay with that. It extends to wherever they show up. And then they find others who are also hurt, who will affirm them in their hurt and pain. Yes, I'm hurt too. And then it becomes this moral, I'm better in a sense, like we are great. Like it's like, oh no, it's like they did this to us. Those people did this to us. And they start to affirm one another. And a lot of times that is and I argue, and I got in some debate with my students the other day, and they didn't, it creates a very fragile reality. And what I was going to say is psychotherapeutic training, especially in the counseling world, often perpetuates and pedestalizes that fragility. And I'm saying this, so what we find in academia actually seeps out into popular culture through social media platforms and all these type of things. And so self-help and also coaching. Everybody's a coach. They would just, they ain't heal, they ain't deal with none of that trauma, but they just felt like, oh, I'm hurt and I'm going to go and help other people. So the problem is, if you haven't really done the work yourself, if you haven't been held accountable yourself, because you don't want no leader, of course. I don't want leaders, because people in my life, I'm speaking from that perspective, people in their lives have already hurt them who were in leadership positions before. So now they will tell you that we don't need no leaders, because my mama hurt me, my daddy hurt me, somebody hurt me, my teacher hurt me. And I'm not making mockery of this. This is real serious stuff, y'all. This is real pain that our people experience. And it makes it much easier for them to find themselves in gangs and cults and groups and anything that they feel gives them power and shared understanding around that pain. Even if that pain has been projected to greater levels than, let me say that. The pain is real. The threat of something like that happening again is not often real, accurate. But it is to a degree, because when you go throughout life without healing that pain, it's just another victim that you're going to create. The unhealed person is going to create another victim. They're going to create another victim due to their own unhealed trauma. So my dear brother in closing says, the traumatized mind traumatizes minds. Baba Imhotep Fatio. Make sure y'all follow the dear brother, dear Baba. Very powerful brother. I'm saying that he's a thinker of thinkers. I really appreciate his ability to process information and also stand on it, because that's the difficult piece, because he's a healer and he has to go through he has to do his own work so that he can stay 10 toes down on helping to aid in the healing of our people. Because when you're helping to aid in the healing of our people, there will be shots thrown your way, and we have to take care of one another in the process. So I appreciate his work, and we also have to affirm each other when we're doing this work. So I want to give major salute to my dear brother, and he deserves all the things and the positive things that comes his way. A servant of servants, a leader of leaders, a scholar of scholars. He has a lot of books, quite a few books. I don't know how many. He has the urban philosophy. I don't know how you call it. You put the urban philosophy selections or whatever. Then he also has this book Nomo, and he has a lot of books. Check him out. Look him up. Follow him on Facebook, Instagram, and look up urban philosophy. I think on YouTube. YouTube. All right. So, core question: why are there so many people experiencing the threat, defensiveness, and suspicion around Black History Month, when the historical record shows? Hold on, let me back up. I got something else I want to do. Mr. KB, Mr. KB in my Mr. K. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. K. But Mr. K is a scholar. Let me just say that. Mr. K is a scholar as well. And I appreciate all the work that he does. And let me see if I can do this real quick. Okay. Let's see. All right.
This February 2026 marks the centennial year, the 100-year celebration of Black folks asserting our humanity in February. However, most people have never heard of the great.
So let me just preface this. This is a video, dear Baba Professor Manu Ampim. I don't really know of Ampim. I'm Mr. K. I'm not sure. I mean, you real out there like that. Mr. K sent me this, and he always says, show the people this and show people that, so I can put them on blast a little bit. This is one of the videos that Mr. K sent me. And I think there's some information that I want to use here to preface this conversation without me saying it all. All right.
Great man who's the reason for the season, Dr. Carter G. Woodson. They haven't read his books. They don't know his scholarship. They don't know his ideas. And in fact, they don't know that Carter G. Woodson consistently promoted the accomplishments of Black people in Africa. He promoted and presented African civilizations at the fountainhead of world civilization. This has been scrubbed from the records by not only the general public, but many of the scholars and even the organizations. His own organization does not even recognize Woodson's consistent scholarship on Africa. His last two books were on Africa. His last 3 articles were on Africa. And he's dealing with African civilizations when they were at the apex of human achievement. So we've gone from Negro History Week in 1926 to then Black History Month in 1976. But now that was on the 50th anniversary. But now on the 100th anniversary, it's time to grow, to develop, to evolve, and really embrace the vision of Woodson. He envisioned an entire year of Black celebrations and Black achievements and accomplishments and greatness in the world. Achievements, accomplishments, and contributions. This is what Woodson focused on, but most of the Black History Month events, they focus on entertainment, giving out awards, and food. Oh, and by the way, we need a Negro, or I'm sorry, a Black speaker to kind of cover it up. How much they're going to give the Black speaker? 5 minutes, 10 minutes if they're generous. And that's most of the presentations that take place. And they focus on individuals, whereas Woodson condemned just to focus on what he called the worship of individuals. And so this year's theme by the Association for the Study of African American Life and History, or ASALH, is a century of Black history commemoration. And so, but in that century of commemorations, where is the focus on African themes? During the time of Dr. Woodson, who passed in 1950, during the time there were numerous national themes in February focused on Africa and African civilizations. Where is that focus now? There has not been a national theme by ASALH focused on African civilizations in 54 years. So since the passing of Woodson, the public and his organization has moved consistently away from the work and vision of Woodson when he put what should be considered African Heritage Month on the table in 1926. So we've gone from 1926 to 76. Now in 2026, there's time to evolve and develop in the direction of Woodson and understand this time period as African Heritage Month, which is consistent with his vision, his work, his scholarship, and his focus.
All right there, family. So again, shout outs to Mr. K. I think that, I just wanted that to set the hold on now. I'll make sure I turn that off because you are trying to give me a. All right, I don't know if y'all can hear that, but nonetheless. All right, so yeah, I think that was a powerful setup as far as setting the stage and kind of giving a little historical backdrop on Black History Month and Woodson and in part and some aspects of his mind that I think people don't often consider, and also the connection of Africa and it always been a part of it, and I even conceptualized some things, and I think I might have it in my slide later. I had a lot of people saying things like, well, it started out as Negro History Week, and it was about the American Negro, and then they say things like African American is more is more of a general term, and that, but they say African American is more of a general term. But to me, if they really want to look at it, if you said Negro, and I'm not saying that this is the case, but I'm saying, but Negro didn't define any group of people. Negro would include all people. If you said Negro History Week, it did not say Negro American. It said Negro History Week. If it said African American history, to me that is more ethnically closed off in a bit. But nonetheless, you FBA people say that African American is a more catch-all term. So since it's African American and you say it's a catch-all term, then I think you can't play it both ways. I don't know if I'm saying this correctly, but you can't play it both ways. And what I mean by that is you can't act like African American is not clear enough at one point and then act like it's very clear in the next point. Dr. Dennis, let me see. What's happening here? It says, okay, that one is not the one that's from me. Dr. Dennis, also Professor Manu is the man who debunked the Willie Lynch myth. Okay. All right, cool. That's beautiful. Thank you for that bit of. Okay, cool question again, y'all. Why are so many Black people experiencing threat? I'm gonna slow it down. Threat, and I want you to keep in mind what I'm saying here. And I want us to look at this together from a trauma-informed lens and think about MIAFA. Think about post-traumatic slave disorder. Think about post-traumatic slave syndrome. Think about race-based trauma. Think about all these things when you listen to this. And you would realize that this is what happens and this is what's going on in our community. These are very symptomatic of trauma. So again, why are so many Black people in America, our brothers and sisters, my brothers and sisters, experiencing threat? Defensiveness. I mean, I've had conversation and the defensiveness is real. And suspicion around Black History Month. When the historical record shows that African-American influence has been global, and this has been my argument, dominant and enduring. What I am saying is what trauma does, it creates narratives in your mind that is not even real, and you're acting on it. It says Ngia treats this not as a moral failure, but as a cognitive and historical trauma question. So again, this is not to say, oh, my dear brothers and sisters, anything's wrong, or they doing is good or bad, or is spiritually this or that. It's saying that there's a wound there. So again, let me just say the question: why are so many Black people experiencing threat, defensiveness, and suspicion around Black History Month, when the historical record shows African-American influence has been global, dominant, and enduring? You want to like we gotta really look at the picture here. The same people, you see what I'm saying? The same people who even take it to different levels of superiority are now saying there's a threat. Oh no, we are culture, they say. Oh no, we are the culture. We are this and that. We are this and that. We are the ones. We got the swag. We got all this. I'm not saying we ain't beautiful. I'm not saying we ain't hip. I ain't saying we ain't got some swag. But look, we're not the only ones with swag. I don't think swag is just an African-American experience. I think I see swag all around. You can't tell me my Jamaican and Caribbean family ain't got their own swag. You can't tell me the UK brothers and sisters don't have their own swag. You cannot tell me that my Nigerian people with they ain't got no swag. Like, look, you can't tell me they don't got no rhythm. You can't tell me they ain't got no soul. All those type of things you say. Look, I understand trauma, but swag is not it's not what African Americans are the only people who have swag. Y'all know, man. Come on, man. Y'all know our Nigerian brothers and sisters got swag. Come on now. Y'all know when they put their joints on, they got the throw it on their shoulder. Bam, big old like yeah. Look. It might not be culturally what you are interested in, but we got swag where we are. You know what I mean? So, again, Ngia treats this as a cognitive and historical trauma. Ngia frame. So, again, I said it earlier. Ngia looks at things through a way of understanding, way of being, and way of intervening. So, again, way of understanding. It's like, I think it's the most essential piece, if I could say, of the model, but not necessarily. I mean, everything's needed, but I think that it's where the work is done. It's the way that you see things, the way you understand it, your worldview, how you interpret reality. Because when we've been through trauma, unresolved trauma, and unhealed, we see things that aren't there. We see things in a fragmented sense. We see things, but it's often fragmented. And we also see threat. We create threat when there's no threat. Way of understanding, I mean, we have to understand this psycho, social, historical, all the rest of the oohs. We have to look at it from all the perspectives. We have to look at it from a physiological perspective, a mental health perspective, a social health perspective, a group perspective, an individual perspective. We have to look at it on all levels. So that's in GIA. There's a both and. We look at it from the individual, which is consistent with Ubuntu, but we also look at it from the collective because you can't disconnect it. But we have to know when to look at things from an individual level, which is often anecdotal, and when to look at something from a group level, which is more like without even having to do it. But if you do want to, if you look at what the statistics say, you don't have to. But what I'm saying is, if you harness the ability to see that my experience with this person does not mean it's going to be the experience with the majority, or in fact, my way of understanding might be off. So again, my way of being, the way and how we relate to self and one in others. In fact, in how I deal with the energy inside of me that is unresolved. Because if I'm operating the world in a constant, under constant threat, I'm not thinking clearly. I'm not processing information. I'm not sleeping well. I'm just trying to survive. So again, these things impact one another. So then way of intervening. So again, it's essential that we understand how we engage with individuals and collectives and the differences. But all of these are very essential to the NGIA framework. And we have to be very intentional about it. See, NGIA is very intentional. It's not doing something haphazardly, loosey-goosey. We have to understand that the war being waged on us by these systems, and the system is intentional, even when it doesn't look intentional. I'm going to talk about race a little bit later. We're going to talk about how we struggle in knowing, like we struggle because we don't have models in our minds to help us see things clearly. I hear people say things about race, but and even people say race first, but they don't realize exactly what that means and why it's essential. And race first doesn't mean that you exclude anything else. It says race first, and people have various ideas of what that might mean, but I'll tell you what I mean by it. So the core definition in psychosocial historical CBT. So cognitive behavioral therapy is a theory of psychotherapy, psychology that helps people kind of interrogate what we call, in this perspective, I'm going to call it psychosocial cognitive distortions, but in CBT, in the sense that is utilized in psychotherapy now, it helps you interrogate what they call cognitive distortions on an individual level. Now, the problem with CBT is that it puts a lot of emphasis on the individual, whereas when from an NGIA perspective, it's doing a both and the individual, and also it's saying we have to be able to look at the systems. We have to look at these things from a group level, and it's not as many people would argue. Like CBT can have you feel like you're the problem for all your issues, and then many times it can discount the systemic injustices, hegemony, oppression, and all these type of things. So again, or it no. Okay, let me just go back what I'm saying here. So in psychosocial historical CBT, psychosocial historical CBT adapts cognitive behavioral theory to collective historical and racial trauma of Black people. Instead of treating distorted thinking as individual pathology, NGIA recognizes that schools, media, churches, policy, and historical narratives have functioned as societal level interventions that repeatedly taught distorted ideas about Blackness, African identity, and history. What is learned repeatedly becomes normalized. What is normalized becomes internalized. What is internalized shapes behavior, identity, and conflict. So again, let me slow it down a bit. And Jill recognized that schools, miseducation that Dr. Carter G. Woodson spoke about, that is a part of his legacy, and others have said it in different ways. Media, churches, policy, all we have to do is think about what Dr. Frances Cress Welsing spoke about when she says that racism it's a part of everything. Sex, war, all the other things. I can't think of them right now. Policy, media, all these different things. So it's pervasive. And somehow we allow people who utilize Dr. Welsing to have a come up to now act as if all the things that she was teaching isn't accurate. And I'm not saying people can't get some things wrong, but that ain't one of the things that she has wrong. But also now utilize those tools to now go from what he called white supremacy, and now they calling it immigrants, Africans. And you hardly hear anything about the white supremacy until it's what do they call it? Until it aids them in some kind of way. There's a brother here in Baltimore. I won't say his name, but years ago, he did a lot of community work. But he would often argue, white man ain't do all this to you. White man ain't do that to you. I can't deal with these scholars. These scholars say all types of things, and they just in their armchair. They armchair revolutionaries. They ain't doing nothing. They just need to get out here and do all these type of things, and they need to get out here and help the children and all this type of thing. Would say that white supremacy is not real pretty much. Went and married a white woman. So what I'm saying is, then all the sisters was a little hurt. But nonetheless, then I saw that some injustice happened to this person in a line when they were going to get some type of permit to open up a facility. And now Mr. Racism Ain't Holding You Back says he calls racism. And now I don't know what got into me. I think I was like a bit, that's when we probably had the Conscious Black Business Network, and I was a bit more, I don't know what got into me, but nonetheless, I said, racism is real now. And he was like, I never said it wasn't real. And I think he unfriended me, but nonetheless, he did some work. He does work, you know what I mean? But he would try to argue that black boys and men deserve what they get in these penal institutions, and when the police pulls them over, they need to do something different. And I'm not saying we can't do some things, but what I am saying, he doesn't have a systems level analysis, so he needs not to be in the conversation. Because he like, well, let's just do. You got to do, but you also got to you have to be informed. And then you see people, let me not get into all that, but nonetheless, you got what I'm saying. And again, let me just get it. Let me just be very clear. I haven't seen a real person that really has any scholastic weight support FBA. I'm saying like I don't like what I'm saying is like there's no scholastic weight. I'm saying they have some fangled scholars, but also these are still scholars can be hurt. If you have not resolved your trauma, I don't care who you are, what your degree is, or what your profession is, or what you read or what you didn't read, whether you went to school or you didn't go to school, because it doesn't matter. You're hurt. And when you're hurt, when I say hurt, when you haven't dealt with the trauma, that now everything becomes a trauma and everything becomes an opportunity, and every person becomes an opportunity that you can blame something on, you're not seeing clearly. I think that's where I wanted to go. So let's move on. Why miseducation matters. So family, if you want to come in, just let me know. I mean, I put the link in the chat, and make sure you like this video, family. Share this video, and thanks for joining us. Hold up, let's try to get me up to 5,000 subscribers, family. I know they do this thing. Let's try to get it up. Make sure you leave some comments as well on the back end. I really appreciate y'all being here today. I didn't know what to expect on Lovers Day. So again, when we're talking about this, we have to understand that the level of ignorance that's coming about when we talk about these, what do you call them? Diaspora wars, that is miseducation. I would argue that anybody who subscribes to FBA rhetoric and even ADOS, and I would say those that are adjacent, who are not brave enough to say they are, or they just, it doesn't take much. You can just be a white nationalist and be exactly who they are, a white nationalist in black. So I would argue that they shouldn't even be speaking on Dr. Carter G. Woodson or Black History Month, because I can't stop people from speaking, but I'm just saying, if I could, I would say that you're not even prepared. Like Dr. Woodson said, he said, you can go and check their site out. I think the site gets some things right. Said that he was against men or women who came to teach people who knew more than them about the very subject. But again, we have people who are coming before us who have not healed, who are not clearly seeing, who are integrationists, which is the furthest thing away, not even integrations, they're assimilationists, is the furthest thing away from what Dr. Woodson's ideas espouse. And again, Dr. Woodson said, look, it's not about a great man or great men. But then, even me, in this conversation, I'm saying, Dr. Woodson said it's not about great men. It's about the people. It's about the things, the great things, the greatness of the people. So Dr. Woodson, in his own framework, ideas, philosophies, would not be against things evolving. In fact, the dear Baba, it doesn't even have to evolve. I'm just saying, even if it had to. Because again, Black History Month has included diasporic and also African, let's say Negro History Week. And up to this date, African American History Month have included diasporic and continental African literature, ideas, concepts, history, culture, all these things. But in your mind, when you've unhealed, you will look for any bit of information, whether or not it goes with the entire picture, and try to make a point. So again, that's what fragmented memories and ideas and thoughts do. It looks for anything to support what it wants it to support, because they believe they're fighting for something that is under siege. And again, as I argue at the beginning of this presentation, African Americans' history is not under siege. The fact that you even have to think about this, African American history, let's say somebody do come and try to push you around a little bit and say, oh, well, this is better history. No, okay, what are you talking about? Where's this plethora of Caribbeans and Africans being celebrated in America who should be celebrated? during Black History Month? Where are they at? Like, who knows? Like, where are they teaching us at? Tell me. You know, first and foremost, the argument is that they only speak about the same old people. That didn't change much. What changed much is they said they speak about the same old people. But again, that doesn't even go with what Dr. Carter G. Woodson spoke to in his own ideas, that Black history should be 365 days a year. We should be learning and educating ourselves 365 days a year. So now that doesn't make sense. It doesn't align. It doesn't logic with this idea that Black History Month should only be for African Americans. So because the goal in his mind, he said he would like it to become from a Negro History Week to a Negro History all 365 days a year. And hopefully that week could be the time where we come and reflect on what we learned. So what are we going to do now? Because in his journals, bulletins, and other literature forms, it was inclusive of Black people or Negroes in history. Spoke about the essentialness of speaking to the Negro in her place in history. But see, again, when you fragment it, you look for any bit of information to support what you want to support, even though it doesn't go with the whole pie, the whole picture. You look for whatever you have to defend yourself, whether or not it makes sense or not. It makes emotional sense because you're just in a protective mode. And when you're in a protective mode, you can't see things clearly. When you're in a defensive fight, flight mode, even freeze mode or faint mode, you cannot see things clearly because your nervous system, again, FBA impacts your nerve. FBA is attractive to people with certain types of nervous systems. I'm arguing this. This is my conceptualization here. That FBA, I'm not saying FBA this whole is just a lineage thing. I'm talking about what is vitriolic messaging. I'm talking about what is closing and boundary setting practices. I'm talking about the them against us personalities and attitudes and ways of being. I'm talking about the lies and the vitriol that they spill, they speak, they project. So again, Carter G. Woodson warned us that miseducation does not merely omit facts, it reshapes perception. When people are miseducated about themselves, they will defend distortions. In his case, you would defend the very system that is oppressing you. See, Carter G. Woodson, as much as you want to say FBA existed, he didn't experience what you call FBA. But he did experience people that look like you and me who defended the system of white supremacy ideology, their education system, in whichever way it came to you, especially academia. When people are miseducated about themselves, they will fight each other over fragments, confuse protection with clarity, confuse fear with truth. Like I was talking about, tell me, I think that this was going to go. I think this is true. Tell me it ain't. Tell me it ain't. Like, what are you talking about? Like, so I think this is happening. I think this is the truth. They're doing this. They're doing that, and they talk fast, and they want you to like say, okay, I don't know. Like the reality is, you don't have to know everything. What I can tell you is, when FBA makes these generalizations about other people and other groups that look like us, 99% of the time it's going to be wrong. They might get an aspect right, but I'm telling you, holistically, the meaning that they draw from it is probably in the high 90s% being wrong. Not that the fact It's not about the fact. It's about the narrative they try to create with the facts. That is wrong. Facts could be correct and narrative can be wrong. But in fact, their facts are often wrong. Don't believe nothing they say. Research everything they say. They're wrong too often, and they will never course correct. They will find a way to move the goalposts, and that is what people do when they have been traumatized by another. That is what they do when they get into new relationships. This is how it works when you have two people who are coming to family counseling, husband, wife, children, whatever. When the person shows you that what you thought I said didn't happen, lots of times what they will do is move the goalposts and say, but this, but that, and not ever concede to the very point that what you just said was inaccurate. And that is what people do who have unresolved trauma, because the fact of admitting that something is factually inaccurate is too much of a threat to them, because they have been thinking this way a long time and they feel like it's been protecting them. But the reality is it's not protecting them. It's actually causing more hell and harm in their lives. It's causing more harm in their lives. Let's see what brother Mr. K, I see he got some messages at the end. Also, Dr. Dennis, will you bring up the point is made to anybody? Oh yeah, I'm going to get into that. I think yeah, definitely. Also, Dr. Dennis, will you bring up the point about what Dr. Myatt got wrong about Black Brits? Yeah, and when I was on Dr. Myatt's show, I shared with her that I at that point I was like, I'm not sure what the UK is doing. Now, in my gut, I felt like it was inaccurate. But again, I'm going to say I didn't know at that time, because I'm going to research it, and my gut and my logic says that's not right. But of course, me being a person who doesn't want to say something is accurate when I just don't know. I mean, I could say I don't know. That doesn't seem right to me. You know, I would research that, just like the brother on the other show said that Caribbean women brought the feminists into our community. I asked them for some type of support of that. I still haven't received anything. Like, when you will make anything up when you feel under threat, when you haven't resolved certain traumas. So again, let me just say all these quickly. When people are miseducated about themselves, they will defend distortions, fight each other's over fragments, confuse protection with clarity, confuse fear with truth. And that is 100% accurate. So Woodson had some textbooks. Carter G. Woodson never intended Black history to be confined to February. I spoke about that already. The story of the Negro Retold, a book, 1935, was written as a full high school textbook designed for year-round instruction. Woodson deliberately produced multiple textbooks so that Black history could be taught as normal history, not exceptional history. The African background outline explicitly required Black history to begin with African civilizations. So I have an outline, and it talks about it has like the list of microfilms and all the different things and that Woodson has written and worked on, him and the organization. And it's how the organization has these things, the microfilms and all. But it's always included Africa. And the project was connected. The books, the textbooks were supposed to be used by educators, because Woodson was an educator at some point after he did all the work in the mines and all that type of thing. He became an educator, a teacher. And it was about curriculum building. It was about the bulletins for the younger children to understand more accurate history. It was about getting history right. It was about the Negro seeing him or herself in history in a favorable light. And that is inclusive of African history. And foundationally, to correct the misconceptions of African history. So you can't say that it's only a United States thing. And it, also from the very beginning, there's also been, even before then, there was mentions of the Haitian Revolution. Now, folks are telling me that the Haitian Revolution shouldn't be included and things like that in our former Black History Month. And I don't know, I mean, like, why not? We got so much great history here in America. What is the threat? Why wouldn't, like you mean to tell me you can't talk about Bob Marley during Black History? Like, why not? Like, we got like what is the threat? Is there really a threat? I want us to breathe, slow down, and really think. What is the threat to Black American history? There's no threat to Black American history. I don't care whose history you put next to it. There's no threat. And in fact, there's no threat to African history when you include it all. So instead of saying, like trying to gatekeep, why not share all African history? When I mean by all African history, share it all. Share Black history wherever it is. If someone has more, okay. I don't think that's a possibility. I mean, I think people just have history. We're Africans, we have history everywhere. Why not talk about the history we have everywhere? Or we shouldn't do that during Black History Month. Who said that? Like, why not? Like, where do you get that from? What are you trying to protect? And then try to use Woodson as a reason why not? But Woodson himself is saying that the week should be a year. So do you keep the same standards when it's a year? And in fact, when you say it should be throughout the year, and we come throughout this week, when we come to this week, which is now a month, do we now just omit the African history and the Caribbean history and all the other history that we learned? What I'm saying is the logic is not logicking. It doesn't really make sense. So if Woodson's goal was to include African history and Caribbean history and all forms of Black history, Negro history, or the Negro in history, rather than they said the history of the Negro, that is inclusive of all. You Negroes don't just live in America. You think you the first Negroes, huh? But the reality is, so you learn this all year. It's in his textbooks and his journals and all that. These are all accoutrements and things to help you prepare for the 1 week. And now somehow you say, well, you make sure you don't talk, little child. I want to tell you, when you come and give your presentation about what you learned, I want to make sure you don't deal with the that African stuff. I want to make sure you don't talk about Toussaint Louverture. I want to make sure you don't talk about Brazilian, what happened in revolutionary Brazil and all these, like, okay, so just tell the child, the adolescent, the young adult, not to just ignore all of that. I don't care who said it. I don't care personally if Woodson said it. I don't care if anybody said it. Like I said on Dr. Maya's show, I don't care if Milana Karanga said it. I love him. I appreciate his work. I appreciate Woodson. But Woodson said this ain't about no great men. This is about the people. And Woodson was very clear that we not to super like put these people on these great pedestals when there's people. And I'm not saying that now. I do want to be clear. I do think though that we don't exclude them and give people the credibility for the work that some of these people have done, because we do that too. We'll get in our feelings and be like, well, Dr. ASALH didn't do that. His wife did it. Like, because, and I understand why people would do it, but my wife don't need you to say, well, oh, Dr. ASALH didn't do that. His wife did it. We do that type of thing because we feel like our women have been oppressed differently and men have been oppressed differently. And I keep trying to tell you, those who have the greatest stage many times, these are the people who catch the resistance. And Black men, in many instances, have had the stage. Didn't mean they had anything, too much of everything else. We're differently oppressed. America, Blacks have had the stage and have the stage. Are we feeling a little threatened by Afrobeats or something? You know, you can't even tell me the Afrobeats is not partly inspired by us. So I don't like, come on, man. I mean, let's stop. Like, I get it. I don't care what my Caribbean brothers and sisters are saying. I don't care what the UK brothers and sisters are saying. I'm talking about these myths that y'all make up, because it's not actually true. That y'all saying they don't do this and they don't do that. It's not true. But let's say they are. I don't care, because I choose to act like an adult. It's kind of like you teach your child to do things that you won't do. You teach your child to not just react because someone did something to him or her, to use their mind, their brain, their emotional abilities, their emotional intelligence. But then you go and lose yours. In this culture, let me just say, in our culture, many times we get to, I don't even know. Let me back up. Not our culture, but in this United States culture, you get to say stuff to children that you won't do yourself. This Eurocentric, white supremacist, patriotic United States of American culture, you don't have to do what you teach. You just, as they say, don't do what I do what I say. I would argue from an African-centered perspective, and I mean African-centered, I don't have to go to Africa to have an African-centered perspective. There's beautiful African-centered perspectives in Africa, but I'm saying there are some brilliant African-centered perspectives here that I live by, that will say that you are to live what you say you have to carry out that which you espouse, what you articulate, all those type of things. All right, let's see what I got here, y'all. So let me just go over it again. Woodson textbooks. Carter G. Woodson never intended Black History Month to be confined to February. The story of the Negro retold was written as a full high school textbook designed for year-round instruction. Woodson deliberately produced multiple textbooks so Black history could be taught as normal history, not exceptional history. The African background outline explicitly required Black history to begin with African civilizations. That's the outline I have. If you want to go and find it, I mean, if you want a copy of it, I can give it to you. But I found it on Scribe or whatever you call it, SCRIBD. Okay, Woodson's mission was global. The Association for the Study of Negro Life and History defined its mission to promote research, preserve, interpret, and disseminate information about Black life, history, and culture to the global community. Woodson never framed history as U.S. only, nationalist exclusive, or disconnected from Africa or the diaspora. Global African history, global African history was foundational, not supplemental. The Journal of Negro History, 1916, from its very first volume, the Journal of Negro History included the Haitian Revolution from 1791 to 1804, Caribbean history, African context alongside with U.S. narratives. This proves that African diasporic history was not added later, it was core from the start. Guide, this is the source that I'm speaking about. A video for Houdier. Brother, keep up the great work debunking this foolishness. Thank you, dear brother. Let's see, what do you say here? Now, if we can get some of these rich professional athletes to realize they are messing up their bloodline with their choice of a mate. What does that mean? FBA, I don't know. Okay, cool. All right. Let's keep going. I think I'm almost done. I'm going to put the link in the chat again. I'm not going to stay here forever tonight, but I will put the link in the chat as I come to a close, and maybe we do a little dialogue for those who want to join in. Woodson's archival papers include, in the Series 5 section of this archival paper, manuscripts on African and African American history, drafts for the Encyclopedia of Africana. Africa, the Caribbean, Europe, and Americas were treated as one African historical continuum. This was methodological scholarship, not symbolic inclusion. What changed? Now, some of the problem is not that Black history expanded. The problem is that miseducation narrowed it, then taught us to defend the narrowing. Miseducation, when like I don't think people are always as clear as others, and when they get their hands on it, they make it as they will. They make it as their traumas. I would say that Woodson was clear. I'm not saying that no one gets everything correct or right, but what I am saying, he was clear. And my NGIA model identifies this as a psychosocial historical cognitive distortion. Again, that being the problem is not that Black history expanded. The problem is that the miseducation narrowed it. That is what's going on in our community. The miseducation and the trauma. And trauma seeks to support itself by gathering more miseducation. When you are setting these strong boundaries, not to say you shouldn't set some level of boundaries and respect yourself, and people have to respect your house and all that type of thing, they do. But when you're creating narratives that are just not true, like African Americans are being look, African Americans are highly celebrated. Highly celebrated. I don't know. I mean, like, the fact that you can't see this is probably, it could be for a few things, but your positionality doesn't, for whatever reason, I don't know, like, especially if you travel, like, you would know that African Americans, whether good, bad, or ugly, they are influential. Psychosocial historical cognitive distortions. So when I call these psychosocial cognitive distortions, these are socially produced thinking errors about Black people and Black history. They are historically rooted, structurally reinforced, and transmitted across generations. They are not individual mental illnesses. I kind of spoke about this a bit, but I just wanted to give you a bit of a definition. So distortion number one, some distortions I came up with. Black history is framed mainly as suffering, slavery, and reaction. That's a distortion. We have too much information out here to know that we're more than that. We've done more than that. And there's no threat to share more than that. In fact, all the work our ancestors did, from Dr. John Henry Clark to Dr. Yosef Ben Yaakman, you can't, like, I'm saying, like, you mean to tell me I can't bring up Yosef Ben Yaakman's name during February now? Like, are you serious? Like, because he wasn't from America, he wasn't born here? Like, I can't use his name now? Like, I have to now say, oh, you can't use his name during February. Like, come on, man. Like, what's happening here? Civil rights with no ancient Africa. No black governance. No global power. That's a distortion. Our elders and ancestors taught us that we were being set up with these narratives. Like, if you study any of the people you say you study, if you study, and the craziness that they're utilizing these figures to try to support their madness, you will not get this from no Amos Woodson. They will try to bring Amos Woodson up and say he's FBA. And nowhere did he talk about this ignorance. He spoke against this ignorance. Now somehow you think you got a better scholar in the FBA community. I mean, I can go down a list of scholars in Pan-African and African-centered spaces. And I'm not saying everything was right, but I'm saying FBA, I'm talking about the FBA. Look, I know they think they're a lineage and they're a group and they all are 42 whatever million. They're not. They're just not. They are a subgroup of the African-American population. They lost they're struggling. And they believe things that aren't true. And that's what I want to make clear. So now I'm supposed to ask people, everybody that I look up to, can you give me your papers? Where did you originate? And that's what they do. Where are you from? So now I'm supposed to do this during Black History Month too. Dr. Ben, could you make it clear on where you are from before I celebrate you during Black History Month? Stokely Carmichael, Kwame Nkrumah, Torre. Can you tell me? Oh, you definitely better not say Nkrumah. You know what I'm saying? People like there's even an argument about whether people who've done things here should be celebrated. Like, you mean to tell me like these are the conversations we're having? So it's not even that people who never touched down here. It's even if you have some Caribbean background and you're in America, whether or not you should be celebrated. So now I'm supposed to look up. Well, I guess you're saying this is Black History Month. So before you present them, make sure that Malcolm X had a mother from one of his parents, or at least FBA. I don't use the term FBA, but I think it's foolishness. I just think it's crazy. And then what? How do we? Anyway, I'm not going to go into too much of that. All right. So again, I'm saying this results in a what we call a schema, a cognitive schema, a psychosocial cognitive schema. Black worth exists only in response to white harm. This is just one example of a cognitive schema. That schemas are at your core. They're like your core way of seeing things. Schemas are so low or so integrated into the way that you see the world that you don't even know that it exists. And you're looking through this particular lens, similar to a worldview, and oftentimes missing and not knowing that your schema is not the only schema out here. But when we have schemas, we believe the schemas are, what is it called? What's the term called? They're, let's say, let me just for sake of, I can't call the word, that everyone has the same schema. Universal is the word I'm looking for. We believe that schemas are universal. No, but we all have schemas on an individual level, and we have collective schemas, I'm saying here. And these groups have schemas. Like FBA has a schema. That schema that I'm speaking about was probably created through as a child. And part of it is they see the world as unsafe. So if a part of your schema is your cognitive, your psycho, your individual schema is that the world is unsafe and people trying to take me off. I'm not saying there's none people like that, but when people have certain schemas that everything is unsafe, they then fall victim to different groups and ideologies and mindsets and perspectives and frameworks and non-ideas and non-truths. A distortion number 2, the white savior. Black progress is narrated as dependent on white benevolence. And this is a FBA schema, I would argue. I mean distortion. Pardon me. This is one of the psychosocial cognitive distortions, you know, and I'm not going to use this example, but the thing is, in some sense, they believe that somehow reparations is more important and it's going to do something greater than what is, even if it came about. And I honestly, let me just be clear. The way that they think it's going to come about, I don't believe it is possible. Let me just be clear. It is, look, first and foremost, the leadership. Oh, I'm sorry. The people that don't call themselves leaders, who speak the most and the most influential, their rhetoric doesn't add up, and it will never be respected on the world stage. Even a cognitive schema, a psychosocial cognitive schema that just came up within the group is that they saw one video on ABC, which I think was a local platform, and somehow they said, "We made it." Another cognitive schema, "We made it. We made it big time." That's a cognitive distortion there. If you really knew that you know, and then it was taken down. So again, resulting schemas, black agency is secondary, white validation becomes central. And that is what is going on. That is the cognitive schema, the core value. Even if you call yourself blackity black, lots of us are walking around with black agency is secondary because we don't believe that we can do this thing. And that's why they say Pan-Africanism is not realistic. Although we have examples of how it is realistic and how it's been beneficial. You can't give them enough examples. So when they start asking a question, that's why I laugh all the time. Like, there's plenty of examples. Like, but I know, and I laugh because I realize no matter the example I give them, it will never suffice that fear that they have in them to change their opinions. I'm saying that one example is not enough. And for somebody who's going through this process and who might perhaps continue to come over here or other platforms where they're challenging these distortions, one day through a process, they may develop a different way of seeing the world, because the way that they see the world and the scheme and their schemas might shift. But right now, they're seeing themselves through a traumatized lens. And that traumatized lens is really a part of that schema. This world is unsafe, core belief, values, and all these different things, which often works at the surface, underneath the surface. And they don't know what's fueling the attraction to these type of groups. Again, I showed y'all last week. They go from the manosphere to FBA. They go from women hate groups, hate men groups to FBA. They go from all these ridiculous, delusional, unrealistic groups that have that. They go from flat Earth to FBA. They go from we them pretendians to FBA, because you got to live in a fantasy world to help you cope in a maladaptive way with that hurt and pain. One of the ways people deal with hurt and pain that is unbearable for them is through fantasy. And I'm telling you, I argue and maintain that FBA and the groups they came from are fantasy. People who struggle with trauma have identity issues. I'm now casting it up to that group that calls themselves FBA. And I know people over there that do it. And I love them. But the reality is we love our family members, but we know that a lot of our family members are in cults. I'm talking about cults that's going to hurt them. Cults to take their money. They're in religious cults and they're sucked in. And we don't want them there. But because their pain or their schemas, their worldviews, their trauma, all that stuff intertangled, their core beliefs and values, but more than anything, their pain has them looking for another way of avoiding reality. And that is what FBA is. And that is what their leaders who say they're not leaders, but we can call them influencers, take advantage of them. And the reality is their leaders and those people, especially their most popular leaders or leader, switches the game up every so often when the well runs dry on the other end. And he often usurps other people's ideas, concepts, because that's what they do. That's what charlatans do. That's what con men do. They know the playbook. They just change the playbook. You can't tell people about charlatans until they end up locked up. I couldn't tell people about Brother Polite. I told people about Brother Polite. And a lot of people in this community supported and defended him. Were they dumb? No, our people are hurt. So they will gravitate towards the delusion, the illusion, the fantasy, anything that will take them out of here, out of the state they see themselves in. And when Polite come with cars that he's rented and women that he paid to show up as his wives, and he got jewelry on and wearing the same sneakers, but he look like but you can't see these things because all you see is this successful black man. But nobody could see. Many people could not see. Many of us could not see, and we defended him. When I was out here on the front line saying, look, you can talk to Talker Bay. I told him before he found out, before he got hit. You can talk to, man, I've been telling people about Umar for years. Before it was popular. I told people Nature Boy is out of his mind. But see, Nature Boy is a person that creates fantasies for people to escape their hurt and pain. FBA is another version of it. It's a MAGA version. Those white people who are in MAGA, they hurt. They feel unseen. They feel all the whatever the thing, whether it's real or not, they are hurt people. Because there are people who came here were hurt. And to be honest, the more we heal, I would argue that we'll be able to see the nuance in white America. Many of us don't see the nuance. We can't see that those people, we can't see the oppressive class or those with the power, and then those who they also oppress to look like them. And they then turn that shit on us because they've been taught to see us a certain way. And it makes them feel good. They believe they better when they ain't got shit. Excuse my language. But that is the fantasy. That is the illusion. But you will go for the illusion, the drugs, the trailer park, the opium, the methadone. These same people are highly addicted to drugs because that's also a part of the fantasy. But then you have, look, those who don't do that. I'm just saying, there's some personality traits that actually do show up and determine how people vote. Those people who are very fear-based tend to vote right-leaning. And if the fear is real, it's far right-leaning. And if I don't care what they tell you, if they FBA will often act like Trump ain't that guy, but they'll keep showing you Trump pictures. They'll keep defending Trump. I'm not saying the other end of the wing won't do anything either. I'm not under that belief. But what I'm saying is those who have this type of thinking are more conservative in their thoughts many times. And they listen to people like Judge Joe Brown and believe that he has some information. Even if they say that they don't go for Trump, there's things in there that they really agree with Trump about. Maybe it's unpopular for them to fully embrace it, but there's those who really embrace it in the closet, and there's those who embrace it above surface. All right, let me get past these distortions. I won't go into all these distortions because I'm gonna try to open up the line here. I think you get the idea. How this shows up in Black History Month debates. The so-called Black History Month purity test reflects all or nothing thinking, threat-based identity policing, trauma-activated defensiveness. Diasporic inclusion, Caribbean. Let's talk about this. So when I'm talking to people, when I'm hearing people talk and I'm looking at these videos and clips, like they'll say these people don't do this. So Jamaica observes Black History Month in February. You go look it up. And regularly includes African-American figures. Costa Rica celebrates the month of history of African descended peoples. So they'll tell you, well, the UK doesn't do this and so on and so forth, but they don't tell you Black history is framed as shared, not competitive with these groups. But also, look, this says the independent UK Black History Month analysis. The UK, when I've done my research on the UK, literally I went to article after article. In fact, they were speaking about how much African-American history is centered in the UK. The civil rights era, the Black Power movement, and rightfully, as to some degree, like, okay, can we include some of us? It's kind of like here, like you bring these figures from out of town. You might be in Baltimore, you bring figures from out of town. You might say, hold up, though, don't we got some people here? So just because a person says it doesn't, and then see what happens for, just because people will say that doesn't mean it's the same thing as gatekeeping, like what FBA is doing. But there's some relevance in, if I'm here in Baltimore and I'm doing all this community work, why won't you work with me? Why won't you highlight what we're doing? Because it's actually more effective. We need to do that. That doesn't mean not to bring other people, but I think we need to look at this a little balanced. But again, there's no threat on Black history, Black American history. Black American history is projected everywhere. In fact, as I'm saying, in the UK, they speak about Carter G. Woodson, the origins. They speak about how they have the month in February and also October, and why they have it in October. And they really, really speak about Carter G. Woodson a lot. And every article I read was speaking about Carter G. Woodson and how it inspired the Black History Month. The brother who created from, I think he has an African name, who created it there in the UK. But still, they reserved a lot of time for those in the United States. So to say that the UK has a Black History Month, again, it's not a threat. And yes, they should include their people. But the reality is they modeled it after what we did here in the United States. And that goes back to the fact that I am saying that we are highly influential. So I have it on my slides. Let me just simmer down because I only got about 5 more slides. KP, I'm coming to you. So again, let me say this again. Jamaica observes Black History Month in February and regularly includes African-American figures. Look it up. Costa Rica celebrates the month of history of African descended peoples. And that is a Pan-African a form of celebrating black people. So they celebrate people all around the globe. In fact, they're highly inspired by Marcus Garvey. So, and that is what the dear Baba doctor that Mr. K put me down with, who he said also debunked the Willie Lynch myth. You can put his, I can't remember his name right now. Dr. Amin. That is what he was arguing, that it is even time for us to move towards a African heritage type of perspective, or black heritage, whatever you want to call it. But there's no need for us to defend something, one, because I think I'll get to that in my new slide, because I want to continue to say race first is how we're being, well, racism is the number one organizing mechanism or apparatus here in the United States and globally. Even though you don't see white people do not mean, or other races, or whatever you call it, doesn't mean that they are not ruling over people according to their race. They want to confuse us and have us fighting all types of battles around nationality, sex, gender, class. All these things are essential. They are important, but we have to understand the difference between diversity, the way we show up in groups, and the different arguments that we're going to always have, and those that are oppressing us globally and locally, oppressing us and creating conditions to have us fighting one another about nationality. You hear that? Creating conditions to have brothers and sisters fighting about gender. Creating conditions to fight about people not being treated right who have mental health illnesses. Because people in this particular country, as one of my elders say, this country doesn't take care of people well. So there's a lot wrong here. And then we blame each other on it because we're caught in this rat race that Bob Marley spoke about. No, it's February. I shouldn't say Bob Marley. I should say somebody else. What? There's no threat on Black History Month. There's no threat on Black American history. Because even Bob Marley's contribution to the world is also his contribution to the United States of America. And we can act like he has not had an impact. That is not erasure. When you have a race-first philosophy and way of understanding, you realize and you conceptualize things through the lens of race. I'm not saying, look, my class folk, I'm with it. Class is also essential. But guess what? When you add anything, you add a race to any other category, it becomes that more oppressive. Add race to any of them, and it actually complicates what people think is standard. And I'll give you an example. People think that, oh, they just throw these ideas of gender out there. Gender. Oh, and hence women become oppressed in this white Eurocentric framework because they have oppressed their women. But then that becomes complex when you are a Black man. I know it's not popular, or in a Black woman, that becomes very complex. I'm saying is they throw these things, they create conditions to have us fighting about these lower and petty arguments while they continue to rule. We want to gatekeep and police who can speak in Black History Month. That is childish. I'm sorry. I don't care, and I don't need the Caribbean brothers and sisters coming here. KP, that's my man, but I don't need y'all being too nice. Because I hear, well, you know, I do understand. You can have your idea, but the reality is, from a Pan-Africanist, African-centered, and race-first framework, centering all Black things Black is not a threat to all things Black. It is, in fact, empowering all things black. Push it all, because all of it is your history. They say so many things. It's so much horrible information out here. And you know what? I forgot. I got something for y'all. Yeah, I think I do have one more thing. I think I do have another. I think I have another video that I wanted to show. Do I have it? Dang, is it over here? Is it move? Did I lose it? Let me see. Hold on. Let me look at my history real quick. All right, let me do this real quick. Since I'm on my last slide and I'm bringing KP in, I know KP can rock and roll. KP will serve as a co-host real easy. So brother KP, come in. You gonna huh? No, what's up?
What's up, Keith? Yo, what up? Me there.
Well, let me
turn it.
I'm hearing something. Why am I hearing myself back though? KP?
Yeah, I'm here. Maybe it's my connection. I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Is that do you have something on?
No, I'm just on StreamYard. I closed the other link. So
I'm gonna be quiet.
Yeah.
And just tell me what you think while behind the scene.
No, I think the last time I was up here was when you had Jared Ball. And before that, Jared Ball had a talk with a longtime black journalist, Lou Turner, who talked about the radicalizing effect of being black in the United States, which was 100, which was on point, right? And the reason I bring that up is because you were just talking about Bob Marley, right? Bob Marley was performing ska, a rock steady, which largely covered American tunes, right? When he then traveled to the United States, where he joined his mother in Delaware for about a year. While he was the radicalizing experience of facing blackness in the United States during the Black Power movement is integral, is essential. Maybe not the only factor, but a part of what radicalized Bob Marley. And when he returns to Jamaica, he becomes a pioneer for reggae, the variant roots reggae, the conscious Rastafarian influence, but Pan-African conscious music that then goes on and becomes a global phenomenon. I bring that up as an example of what you were laying down this show relative to Black history is all Black people's history. But it also reminds us that the United States, in the case of being Black in the United States, is central to all Black people, and our diasporic consciousness. Carter G. Woodson, when he's laying down the argument why Black history is essential, which is going to become later on. I know Brother Kevin was mentioning Edgar Toppin's role in making Black History Week become Black History Month, and he's 100 about that. Well, Toppin and Woodson both went to Howard, by the way, Howard University. They are essential in addressing from the academic side what had been American history, which claimed that the Black man, and including the African, had no history. That's what the fight was. We only existed as a service to white people. That was the theory. That's what was taught in every college and university in the United States. And when you study history, the Black man over there, he has no history. And even before the academic approached Black history, there were people like Schomburg, J.A. Bruce in New York, who had the American Negro Academy. Before them, Blyden and Alexander Crummell, all these who were digging up the Negro's past, right? John Henrik Clark comes out of that school all the way into today, right? The point I'm trying to make, though, is that at every stage of the development of what we call Black history, there was Pan-African cooperation. What I mean by Pan-African cooperation, there were Black historians or Black people who were seeking the truth about us from the Caribbean, from the United States, a few from Africa, people like Nnamdi Azikiwe, I hope I said his name right, Kwame Nkrumah. Part of their radicalization is here in the United States. Nkrumah at Lincoln University, Azikiwe at Howard. So, you know, you spot on in laying down the danger of this FBA type thinking. I mean, that guy FBA Ron, right? You on his show, FBA Ron show?
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I heard that brother was saying was, we got to take Black back. Take Black back from who? And why? You know what I'm saying? Black is, there's different versions of Blackness in the Caribbean and in Baltimore. It's different than in Alabama. It's different than in Florida. It's different than New York, right? We have, you know, localized variants of how we perceive ourselves, how we carry ourselves in Blackness. But what unites us is this struggle against white supremacy. Some people say now white narcissism, which centers whiteness as the only official. And that fight, we all have a role to play in it. And for me, that's what Black History Month is all about. It's about harnessing those Black stories from around the globe that remind us of who we really are and can power us into the future. And I'll stop there.
Okay.
Yeah.
For some reason, I'm getting feedback from you. I'm not sure if you have you on your
speakerphone or something. Yeah, I'm on my speakerphone. Okay. Might be my Wi-Fi. I don't know.
I'm gonna play this clip and just let it do what it do. I won't even set it up. All right. Can we
commemorating the 18?
Hold on, let me go on mute, KP.
Yeah, I'm muted.
Okay.
'96 Battle of Adwa, where Ethiopian forces achieved a decisive victory over Italian invaders, safeguarding the country's sovereignty and inspiring oppressed peoples across the globe. Adwa Victory Memorial is a landmark museum in Addis Ababa. Yosef Baka, Director General of the Adwa Victory Memorial, says over 350,000 visitors from Ethiopia and abroad toured the site in the last 6 months, underscoring its significance not only as a historical monument, but also as a place for reflection and education. He highlights the deep pride Ethiopians feel for their ancestral sacrifices, which resonate beyond Ethiopia's borders and inspiring Black communities worldwide. At a time when much of Africa was under colonial rule, the victory preserved Ethiopia's independence and made the country a global symbol of resistance, dignity, and self-determination for African and Black peoples worldwide.
The memorial has a huge significance for image building, as the number of tourists visiting the site is increasing through time. More than 350,000 tourists visited the memorial in 6 months alone. Among them, tens of thousands are foreign tourists. More than 10,000 children paid a visit to this landmark memorial museum. Therefore, this has resulted in an increase in income for our country.
The Adwa victory, celebrated annually, is recognized as one of the greatest triumphs of Black peoples against colonial aggression, underscoring its lasting historical and symbolic importance. Built in the heart of Addis Ababa, the memorial was established to preserve and pass on to future generations the legacy of heroism, unity, and patriotism demonstrated at Adwa. Yosef describes the memorial as a permanent tribute to the fierce struggle of Ethiopia's ancestors, a living testimony that helps current and future generations grasp the history of the Adwa victory and foster a shared national narrative.
The Adwa Victory Memorial narrates our shared history, anchors our hopes for tomorrow, and forms the foundation of our collective narrative. Today's generation, like the heroes of ADWA, is expected to make its own lasting contribution to the country's development. Therefore, much is expected from us now.
Ethiopians living abroad have also expressed a strong appreciation for the memorial and said the site vividly illustrates the immense sacrifice their ancestors made for the unity and sovereignty of the nation. Kaya Deni, an Ethiopian born in Italy, said the ADWA Victory Memorial powerfully commemorates the extraordinary struggles of Ethiopian patriots and serves as
Yeah, I want to stop real quick. So I want to bring up something, right? So this is what I was talking about earlier. It's kind of like these cognitive distortions and this black and white thinking and cognitive dissonance that happens. This user here, Worlds 5726, says that's not Black history. Now, when you listen to the argument of this type of participant, they typically say that Ethiopians and Africans don't see themselves as Black, and that's their problem with them. But or they don't see themselves as Pan-African, and that's their problem with them. So they don't even want nothing to do with it. But when you can show them an example that there is Pan-Africanism on the continent, this is a Pan-African museum. It even has a garage called the Pan-African section or something like that. It might have been part of the actual museum, but nonetheless, when they say that they're Black, and this is for Black people worldwide, then again, they have to now say, well, they're not Black. But their problem initially is that they say they're not Black. They're not down with us and all these type of things. So again, even like you say, so here, someone says Ethiopians said they are not Black. Are you okay? I don't know what that means, but these are Ethiopian people who are saying they are Black. You have Black people in America who say they're not Black. Somebody.
Can I intervene here, Doc?
Okay, I'm be quiet.
Okay, real quick. Yeah, and in fact, you see this memorial that you're talking about here in ADWA? Thousands of African Americans actually went to Ethiopia or volunteered to defend Ethiopia against Italy in the very same war they're talking about. In fact, one of them's name was John Robinson, African American, who they might call FBA. You could look it up, John C. Robinson. Another one was Hubert Julian, who's actually a Trinidadian, but he was in Harlem in the United States, had flown one of the first Black pilots of World War I, and they went over to Ethiopia to defend Ethiopia. But the story doesn't even end there. In addition to this memorial, Ethiopia is one of the African nations that has land that African Americans can move to and settle and develop. It's a town called Shashamani that was given by Emperor Haile Selassie, Rastafari, to Rastafarians from the West, Jamaica, from the United States, to go over there. One, I think, and I'll end here, Jackie Robinson's son actually went over there and established a farm, and he still lives there to this day. So this idea that Ethiopians don't think that they're Black, all you got to do is press Google, my friends, and you will find all you need to know about how essential African Americans were to the defense of Ethiopia. Sorry, one last piece. One of the most prominent African diasporic historians at UCLA right now, Winston James, the title of his book is Holding Aloft the Banner of Ethiopia, where he talks about the Caribbean radicals in the long roots of the United States civil rights movement, like the early part of the 20th century. And again, part of this history is related to the defense of Ethiopia. So they say Pan-African didn't work. Pan-Africanism largely helped Ethiopia maintain its independence from invading colonial Italy. And Ethiopia said, thank you. And actually has this memorial and actually has land that you can go visit and see. So, the facts are there that dispute all of these Uncle Stephen, Uncle Ruckus narratives that the FBA likes to echo and champion as if it is fact.
Yeah, appreciate that. So I appreciate that, and the historical perspective you bring. I appreciate what Mr. K brings, and I'm trying to utilize this from a psychosocial historical perspective to help. This is what you would call challenging cognitive distortions, and I'm saying in this sense, challenging psychosocial cognitive, the psychosocial historical cognitive distortions. And I'm going to let this play out because let me see, this person here said Dr. Dennis, not Kevin, it was something else. Kevin is always saying something. I can't keep up with the knowledge that he drops, right? But World 5726, I'm not sure if I misunderstood her earlier, but I guess I'm only going with what you're writing. But now you're saying I'm being realistic. Global Africa will be part of Black History Month. Okay, if that's what you're saying now, and then let's see what you hear. This Pan-African history will never be included because some of these are on the terrorist list. Okay, well, I don't, again, I can't tell what argument 5726, if I got you right or I got you wrong. We'll figure it out later. So I'm gonna continue this video, and I just want us to listen. And KP, please hang around as long if you can.
The national narrative that conveys hope and courage not only to Ethiopians but also Black people around the world.
So not only to Ethiopians, but Black people around the world.
Another visitor, Azebiadin, an Ethiopian living in California, the United States, shared her experience during her first visit.
It's my first time here, so it's very beautiful. I know it is being built just recently, 2 years ago. And then to commemorate the 100,000 of people, Ethiopians who died to free from colonization, not just Ethiopia, but all Africans. And that's very powerful message.
So you keep hearing the Pan-African framework, all Africans.
To give to the world.
To give to the world.
I'm very happy to be here because of I can learn more in details about ADWA.
ADWA ለትውልድ ከማሳየት አንፃር በጣም especially ለልጆች
ADWA is so significant, especially for kids, as it helps them to understand their history. The sacrifices of Ethiopians during that time were a great inspiration, not only for Ethiopia, but also for Africa. And they sent a powerful message.
So again, this is the same work that Dr. Carter G. Woodson was doing. And you think that he would say, well, you know what? That's okay, but Africans can't participate in African History Month or African history or whatever is being said. It's because there's a variety of things being said. We know that that's not true because it's included in his own work, his own textbooks.
To the world, as the barefooted Ethiopian heroes and heroines defeated Italians. We celebrate a victory day, not an Independence Day. Those Ethiopians who live in abroad especially can learn Ethiopia's history. I'm very happy to be here.
Proud እንዲሆኑ በብላክነታቸው I have people, I have ይሄ ብለው እንዲሉ ያደርጋቸዋል ብዬ አስባለሁ.
The memorial offers.
And I know them saying Ethiopians can learn Ethiopian histories might trigger you, but just know that if it does, there's something that needs to be resolved in you. Because Ethiopians should learn Ethiopian history, just like African Americans should love African American history, just like African Americans can learn everybody else's history, and Ethiopians can learn everybody else's history, like Caribbeans can learn Caribbean history, and and then you can go even more granular to the different islands, and like my brother KP said, you can, like, people from Baltimore, we in the United States can learn Baltimore history and should learn Baltimore history. See, it's no problem.
An important opportunity to learn more about the history of ADWA and pass it on to future generations, it was stated.
Brother Dr. Winkler, let me correct something I said. I referred to Jackie Robinson's son establishing a farm in Ethiopia. I was wrong about that. He actually established that coffee farm in Tanzania. So my bad. I made a mistake on that one. My apologies.
Congratulations to all Ethiopians here
let me
and
try
around
to.
the globe, as well as to our
stop.
African brothers and
Oh,
sisters
how
who
do I
live in
stop
different
this?
parts
Hold
of.
on. Okay, I got that. Well, thank you for your correction. I appreciate that. And let me just close this particular. Let me see. Is my presentation? Oh, you know what? I went out and I got to come back in. I had to come back in. So I have a few more slides before we get up out of here. Let me see here. Black history. Is that the one? No, that's not the one. Let's see. Oh, here it is. So I'm gonna remove this. Okay. But all right. So let me just close this on out. Black history. Oh wow, I started over. Okay, where was I, y'all? I went all the way down to what chain? And diasporic inclusion. Yeah, I was here. Did I do this one? Diasporic inclusion, Africa and global Black History Month or similar services exist in multiple African nations. Martin Luther King monuments exist in Europe even and Africa. Antigua renamed its highest, although it's been changed back. Peak Mountain, no matter how you feel about Obama, they saw him as a Black American, and they named their highest peak mountain which was a major monument or what have you, or let's say, what's the word I'm looking for that's more proper than monument, but it's a major attraction.
Did you see it?
Go ahead.
Public memorialization. Yeah, I did.
Yeah.
Memorialization.
Hold on 1 second. Is KP, go ahead.
Oh yeah, and this doesn't include the Senegalese African Renaissance Monument. If you want to look at a huge testament to Pan-Africanism, particularly to African Americans, look at the African Renaissance Monument in Senegal. And by the way, Tariq Nasheed did take a nice picture from that monument. And just a little bit, that monument was built by who was the president of Senegal at the time, Jonathan Wade, is how it's spelled, but they pronounce it Wade, but Jonathan Wade, who was a Pan-Africanist revolutionary leader of Senegal. And he actually, he cost himself his political future by using the nation's funds to build this monument to Pan-Africanism. But he understood the necessity in the long term of doing this, even if it would cost him the presidency. And that's an important example to think about, because you talk about the pain that African Americans feel relative to the Black diaspora, and oftentimes that pain comes from this form of thinking where they say, well, why didn't Africa do more to protect us from slavery, right? There's this idea that Africa should have done more. Africa should have mounted a successful defense of those people who experienced the Ma'afa. There's this resentment. That's one of the sources of the pain, right? Well, if you think about that African Renaissance Monument as an example, here we have a Senegalese president who sacrifices his political future, right, using the nation's treasury to create a lasting legacy and signal to the diaspora, right? And it shows just the difficulty of the African nations and their leadership in doing more. You know what I'm saying? Because if you're a citizen of Senegal, right, you might be upset that the tax dollars are going out from your country to Blacks elsewhere. Those tax dollars could help develop the country, could build more roads, could build more hospitals. But so it becomes difficult for these nations who are still developing themselves, right? Recently independent, 50s, 60s, into the 70s, right? But they increasingly, these nations in the Caribbean and Africa are using Sankofa, looking back and seeing what they can do as they become stronger and and develop their economies. They're developing programs. Just this past year, the AU strengthened its commitment to the 6th region of Africa, which is the diaspora, and has launched on the international level the need for reparative justice from the colonial power. So I bring these things up, and I'm sorry to just, be a little bit verbose, but this idea that Africa or Africans or Pan-Africans do not care about African Americans or Black Americans in the United States, that is just patently wrong. And the struggle continues. These are ideas in development.
Can you take? Are you able to take the phone so I can have a back and forth?
Well, am I on speaker? I just turned on the mic in StreamYard. I didn't put it on speaker or anything like that. Yeah.
Oh.
Yes.
You might not have earphones.
Yeah, I don't have on earphones. I'm just talking right into the phone. Yeah.
You might can turn your volume down just a bit.
Okay, let me try that. Yeah. Is that better? I just turned it down.
Testing.
Mic check 1. Check. Yeah. Hopefully this might eliminate the echo, I guess. Yeah.
I'm gonna put you on mute right now. And if you want to come off, it's okay to come off. But diasporic. Hold on, I gotta keep you on mute until you're ready. Until you're ready to say something. So hold up, is it happening now? Oh, I think okay. I see. So diasporic inclusion, again, MLK in Europe, Antigua, so on and so forth. And people get, as Brother KP was speaking about, had some frustration with some of these moves because African Americans have been the center in many instances as pertains to Black people. African Americans' history functions globally as Black achievement, not contested property. Race first. I talked about race first a few times during this particular presentation, and I would argue that if you are looking at things from a race first framework, we have to course correct here. From an NGO framework, it means race is the primary global organizing structure of Black oppression, but also power. Let me say that. So if you look at it that way, you look at it that race is the primary global organizing structure of Black power from a race first mentality. Other identities matter, but cannot supersede race in analysis. That's a race first analysis. Doesn't mean that class is not essential, that gender is not essential, that all these things, but a lot of these things become confusing. Or let me stay clear here, that nationality, for example, is not essential, but nationality is not put before race in a race first framework. So again, I think that if one is most people who identify as Pan-Africanists or those who espouse race first philosophies ought to realize that is their primary lens in the way that they conceptualize what's going on in the world. But the problem is when you're confused by and not knowing, as Ngia imparts here, is that we have to know how we understand things. And that's why it's essential that we understand that your understanding and your core, let's say, theory or your ideology, if it's Pan-Africanism or if it's, let's say, even you're a Black internationalist or what have you, or the like, you look through things through that lens of race, and race is how you've been oppressed, and race is how you will gain your power. You have to connect with the people that are like you around the world to take back your power, not get sidestepped by nationality. And then when you get sidestepped by nationality and not to say these things are important, but what they will do is they will take a lot more energy from you to fight in what the major fight is, because we will always have differences. And I think that's essential to understand. But we have to look at what is similar to, I mean, you can accept the differences, but also look at what is similar to defeat the oppressor. And I think, and I would argue that race is, it doesn't matter where you are in this, on this globe, is the primary organizing structure of Black oppression. Positionality and responsibility. I would say this: African Americans sit near global power and cultural influence. I think we really need to understand this. I think sometimes we don't realize this. It's not so, and I'm not, we are great people. We are beautiful people. We have done a lot of things, and we are in the master's house. The number one oppressor that's happening right now, that's been going on for what is it, several hundred years. So what I'm saying is we have to realize where we are in our position, and that many times, and I'm part, and I know KP is very nice, and I appreciate it, and I think it's needed. But the reality is some people will hate on you because just like you, when we think about the house, the person, the quote unquote enslaved person who's in the house, he might or she might be really fighting for you, but you start side-eyeing them, and you might get a little judged because they got different clothes on, all these different things. I'm not saying they don't have things elsewhere, but what I am saying is you sit at the seat of power, and sometimes with miseducation, people can become a bit envious of that. But again, when you look at the research that I showed some weeks ago about sentiments from our dear brothers and sisters across the globe, that is not necessarily the major sentiment, but that will be the sentiment of someone on that side of the pond or from that particular national perspective that also needs to be healed. So it's not just FBA that needs to be healed, it's those who also spit the venom this way. It is also those people who need to heal as well. They need to become aware of what's really going on, just like FBA. KP.
Oh yeah, I wanted to follow up on that point that you're making. I think the recent Shabuzi controversy kind of points to that, right? With that brother Shabuzi, the Nigerian immigrant country singer, who after receiving his Grammy Award, tried to speak to the moment relative to ICE and national politics, and made the statement about immigrants, right, building this country, right? I think the brother was well-meaning, but the brother made a huge mistake in not centering the labor of enslaved African Americans, right? First, which is the foundation upon which this country was built, right? His failure to do so, set himself up, or that was like a lob for a dunk for FBA at that point, right? But then on the other side, there's a brother named Deontay Kyle. I hate to bring him up because I think he's a very good brother, right? Who's usually on the right side of things, right? But then he had a reactionary video to Shabuzi's a weak statement, wrong statement, where he kind of echoed the FBA argument. And my point was that both Kyle and Shabuzi were wrong. Deontay Kyle was being a bit reactionary in veering to the FBA argument there, but he was correct in calling out Shabuzi's failure to acknowledge, the foundation of labor exploitation that slavery in the United States was. There's people on both sides, which I think you're speaking to, where we need to learn more about our commonalities, and then we need to adhere to good history, or a good history and good historical analysis at a much higher level. And that's not unique to the so-called FBA. There's people in the diaspora who equally need to know more and be more clear about our communal history.
Absolutely. Appreciate you putting yourself back on mute. Definitely that is absolutely true. And we need to take those. Is my mic still working? Can you hear me, brother KB?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear, man.
Okay. Something happened over here. But yeah, I think we need to take that in consideration. But that takes some healing to do that, because I'm holding my people that in my proximity. I'm trying to do the work there, because if anybody can do it, it would be somebody who seems similar in culture or what have you. Although that's still a lot of work too. But I mean, I don't have a problem with having that talk with anybody, to be honest with you, no matter what their nationality is. But I do know that, in fact, I don't think, honestly, I haven't seen movements that are as equal to what I see from FBA and the things that they spew. Now, I have asked people to send me movements like FBA from elsewhere. Now, I'm not saying I don't see individuals, small groups, but FBA is a serious thing. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I would like to see it where it's quasi-organized in the manner that FBA is. So again, African Americans sit near the global power and cultural influence. We just got to be real with that. And it doesn't always have to do with us being extra spectacular. Not that we're not spectacular, but I would say African Black people are spectacular, and we are African people, and because where we sit also gives us access. Africans sit on land and sovereignty in some ways, in many ways, and we have to hold them accountable, and not just Africans, but people in the Caribbean as well. We have to hold them accountable to do what they need to do with their resources as well. I'm saying globally. Diasporic communities hold strategic bridges. Each positions carry different responsibilities. What I'm saying is acknowledging this is clarity, not hierarchy. We need to understand where we sit and how we bring everything together to do what we do with it. Again, this is what I was saying. I'm starting with African Americans because this is my location. This is my responsibility. This is where clarity must begin. Starting at home is not dismissal of others. It is my ethical self-location.
And can I just say, and us Blacks in the diaspora who are in the United States definitely need to acknowledge that and honor and respect that, and put African Americans first. I don't think there shouldn't be any argument against that. If we're in the United States and we're involved in this whole sector of history, humanities, advocacy for Black people, if in the United States, you should start with Black people from the United States. I think that'll go a long way to healing whatever ethnic antagonism exists relative to this FBA.
What is that you're speaking about, though? Because I said quite a bit in that little short statement.
No, like where you said you're starting with you're starting here. You're starting with African Americans first. You speaking to them as a a constituent member, right? Mm-hmm. But there are Black diasporans, right, who've made the United States their home, right, and have done so for more than 100 years, right, voluntarily. And we could. I don't want to go down the rabbit hole of that, but people from the diaspora have been coming in and out of Black America. Black United States for quite a while, but that pain that's at the center of your analysis, I gotta honor that pain. There is pain, particularly relative to the post 1965 larger waves of Black diaspora and immigration. Right, Nigerians have come in since the 1980s and exceeded and taken over and hired and been Black faces in places of power at levels that has caused a lot of and I'm not blaming Nigerians for coming in and doing the damn thing, being excellent, but this is a source of pain, right or wrong, right? And one of the ways I think that Nigerians, for instance, or Jamaicans or any Black diasporan who's living in the United States can help ease is by making sure to always honor and center, and I would say start with African-American history, African-American contribution. There's room there from the diaspora to learn even more, and push that point. And I'm saying that, you know, to try to smooth out this supposed antagonism that FBA projects back onto Black diasporans such as myself.
Right. So, and you know, and I think I would probably frame something.
I was going to say, and I know you're going to say I'm trying to be too nice, but I think it's absolutely necessary.
Well, I do think from your perspective it is, from your framework, from your positionality. But I will say though that I will reframe something, because I think much of it is part of the delusion as well. When you say like Nigerians have come and did the damn thing, that reminds me of like Black women have done the damn thing. You know what I'm saying? Like African American women are the, you know, this and that. And in fact, I think that I appreciate that analysis, but I also think we should be careful with that analysis to some degree, because there are structural and systemic reasons for some of this. And I'm not saying, and I'm also saying that we also have to be careful when we look at data and how we're comparing groups. Because one of the things I think is really bad when we look at groups is that we will compare an entire population of Black Americans against people who migrated here who are of certain yoke.
Yeah, different class. Absolutely. You're 100%.
I don't even want to say class, because I remember Dr. Ball even saying last week, I had to think about it, because class is just one version of it. Because there are people who come here just like want to work hard as hell. Like, I mean, I know too many people when I hear people say these things, I know too many people from the islands, it's just, they ain't got shit. Excuse my language. They ain't had nothing when they got here. and they really still don't have much and nothing. You know what I mean?
It's that Old Living Color skit from Damon Wayans about the Jamaican who got 10 jobs. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So I think we have to look at things and compare apples to apples. And if you were to parse out the most successful portion of the African American population, then compare that, then we could be talking. But it's not fair to compare the an entire population of people. It's kind of like going to Go ahead.
No. I just was coming on to say, no, you're 100% correct. You're 100% correct. If you PhD economists in Nigeria as a group versus PhD African American economists, they'll probably have a lot more in common in terms of economic achievement and other so-called statistics. But that's not what's being done the way the data is presented here, where that specific class of Nigerian American immigrants is being compared to the totality, the range of African American classes. And so it distorts, and there are people who want the distortion to go out to back the positions that they're pushing in a political framework. So yeah, I just want to agree with the correction. Absolutely.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because you know that can go in a variety of ways, right? And like I was going to say, you could easily say, well, let me compare the African Americans who moved to Ghana to the entire population is there. And we know that wouldn't be fair. These African Americans are coming from the States with many times resources and even exchange values that are a little bit that are different as well. So we have to be, as you said, dear brother, we have to look at things equally, because many times the way that data is being presented is presented in a way to maintain and project certain levels of ideas in people's minds. Brothers and sisters who migrate here, well, we're this, and then brothers and sisters here hearing that, they're like, well, you know, what's going on? And then you might hear black sisters saying, well, we this. And so what I'm saying is there's systems set up, there's interpretation or intentional misinterpretation of data, because I think people are smarter than that many times, but it is put out there in a way to have us feeling like we are less than. That's a part of the miseducation process that Dr. Carter G. Woodson speaks to. And many times, even the data that we look at as African Americans here in this country, when you look at the studies and research, many times it's really with populations that are quote unquote. We talk about people who are dealing with some of the most serious levels of oppression here. But I will say is that skews the narrative or the picture that we think about ourselves here. Not that even those who are making it so-called are doing so much better, to be honest with you, because the society in and of itself is just oppressive. So yeah, I appreciate that. Let's see, so they having fun outside, y'all. So that's it, y'all. Let me go to I'm back here. If y'all want to come in, I don't know what they're having a party out there. I'm not sure if y'all can hear that. And let me see if it's KP or if it's anybody else, or if it's me. If anybody wants to join in before I get out of here, we can make that happen. We won't be too long though. We'll probably be another 15 minutes at most. Yeah, I just put the link in the chat. Family, make sure you like this video, you share this video, you do all the things. Make sure you add a comment. Let's see, anybody wants to come in. I'm gonna give it a few minutes before I get up out of here. I appreciate you all joining on this day, and all that type of thing. Let me see, did I get through all my thoughts here? But let me just kind of, as I wait to see if anybody wants to come in, just kind of have some concluding thoughts around my point here. And that is, I would urge us, instead of serving as gatekeepers of African and Black history or accomplishment, to not serve as gatekeepers or people are trying to hide things. I think we need to share it all. And I think once we share it all, you will realize there's really no threat to us. In fact, when African information isn't shared, Africa is one of the most, if we really want to be honest, African Americans do have a certain narrative, but the way that Africa has been painted, it's still a lot of healing that needs to take place. And even the narratives that are being shown today about Africa, lots of times, from my thought, is it's still trying to frame it within European standards. Again, I often say I don't really care about skyscrapers and fast cars and if they have this and that. To me, you're still measuring Africa by European standards. I'm not saying these things shouldn't be looked into, but we don't need to judge our people by European standards. We are great people wherever you find us. And there's been a lot of sidelining going on, a lot of oppressive tactics going on. But anyway, my number one thing again, if anybody wants to come in, my number one statement here is that I'm not about centering African American history. I'm not about centering Afro-Caribbean history. I'm not about centering African history. I'm about centering all things Black, all things African. I don't care. In fact, let me just throw it in. I'm not centering UK history. I'm not centering Black, whatever. I'm centering it all. And when you center it all, they center all of their history, don't they? They center every goddamn thing. Your enemy, and I use those words sparingly, but your enemy center every piece of their history. We want to fight about whether it's not ours or not. Well, they accept everything is theirs and even what is not theirs. They make up things and say it's theirs, and they take things and say it's theirs. And we want to fight about whether we from the West Coast or East Coast of Africa. It's just beyond trying to fit into European frameworks. I understand they teach you certain types of things in school, but they center every goddamn thing. When you think about European history, you even think about Russians. You think, even though they're a lot different than those on the more Western. You think about European history, you think about Italians. You think about European history, you think about all these people. And in fact, they got some of us believe in that certain parts of Africa is European history. That's how brainwashed they have us. You know what I mean? Brother KP, you got anything in closing before we get out of here?
No, bro. Just to again encourage you and congratulate you on this platform, and remind to continue to do the good work, man. It's important. Even if they don't get it right away, man. You know what I'm saying? It's important for the record and as a reference for them to reflect back upon. Some of them are gonna be hurt by the information. They're probably gonna, but once it's in that dome, it's in that dome, right? It may take them waking up at 2 a.m. to think about what they heard and then go Google it, or and then you could lie on the outside, but you can't lie on the inside when you know what is said and what is being demonstrated is absolute fact. So props to you, bro. Continue to do the good work, man.
I appreciate it, brother. Appreciate you. And appreciate your mind and what you bring. I know you're not too far from me. Maybe I'll get you up here on. I'm not sure you on in front of the camera type of person, but I might have to get you up here on one of these Wednesdays.
I'm definitely gonna try and link up, man. Like I said, my daughter's up that way. I'm up that way pretty regularly. So I'm out of town now, but I'll be back up in that area in the DMV pretty soon. So I'm gonna holler at you, man.
All right.
That's a contact. So yeah.
So now what KP doing is he's breaching a local boundary here. He want to call us the DMV. See, that's another black fight. We ain't the DMV here in Baltimore. And we will fight about it. And then some will say we are, and some will say we ain't. And we don't want to be a part of the DMV. And then someone will say, well, you are a part of the DMV. And they be like, no, you're not a part of the DMV, and we don't want you a part of the DMV. But anyway, we got all types of battles. Well, family, make sure you thumb up, like the video. And that was a slow pace. Break it down. That was a slow pace. Break it down. That was a slow pace. Break it down. And I appreciate you all for coming through on this day. I was wondering if anybody was going to show up. I'm satisfied. Just know that. Just on your way out, just give me some likes so we can get this in the algorithm. Share your comments. FBA, show me some love. Show me some love. Maybe you've grown a bit. Maybe you have some challenge. Nonetheless, just be respectful. Until next time, peace.
When you claim you have finished, you're going to get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Black and I'm proud. When you claim you have finished, you're going to get your mind back. black and I'm proud. Claim you're African, black and I'm proud. I'm telling you, when you claim you're African, you're gonna get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim you're African, black and I'm proud. I'm telling you, when you claim you're African, you're gonna get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim you're African, black and I'm proud. I'm telling you, become a part of it. Embrace it. 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 When you claim you're African, you're gonna get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim you're African, black and I'm proud. I'm telling you, when you claim you're African, you're gonna get your mind back. Black and I'm proud. Claim you're African, black and I'm proud. I'm telling you,